at that price, I need 67 people enrolled to have a 100K launch. At 67 people at 10% conversion rate, I need 670 people on the call, right? At about a 70% show up rate, I need about 950 registered, and about a 70% opt-in rate, I need about 1350 that actually land on the page. My last launch had about 1,200 people land on the page. At about a 10% conversion rate, which is what I had, that would have right there easily been like another 20,000 just by like not adding more people, but just turning the dial on the conversion rate.
Say this launch really converts beautifully. Okay, well, let's tweak it a little bit, make it a 3-day or whatever it is challenge that's fully automated. They opt in, it starts delivering via text message. If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, everybody. This is Leah Ray with Digital Trailblazer, and in today's episode, we have John Mendez. So super excited to have you with us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Let them know what you're about, what you do.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here and excited for our conversation today. And so my name is John Mendez. Sometimes they call me Mr. Stop and Stare, just don't touch the hair. And that's kind of how my name Stop and Stare Media came about. A little funny catchphrase, Mendez Media was taken. I'll talk more about it later. And so I was like, what's the next best name? Stop and Stare Media. And so essentially I help business owners go from creating 4 posts a month to 4 posts a day so that they can attract more quality clients, build their online presence, and overall just live their best life without having to break their bank and start leveraging AI to do all of it. So that's a little bit about me. I also have a podcast called Walk to Wealth. And I'd like to say the AI stuff fulfills my pockets. The podcast really does fulfill my purpose. And on there, I really try to help young adults like myself build a wealthy, abundant life. And I'm documenting my journey and the journey of other successful people while I'm still on the journey, instead of me waiting to, quote unquote, make it to start giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. I think that's so cool. And I understand it as well because we just started this podcast recently, and just the amount of conversations and relationships and everything, it has definitely filled my cup and helped me just to meet and connect with such cool people from all over the world. So I can absolutely appreciate that. So dive into your business a little bit for us. And well, even before that, what led you to start your business? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so just for a little bit of context, I wasn't like the typical entrepreneur at all. Like, I didn't have the paper route. I didn't have the lemonade stand. I wasn't selling candy bars in school. Like, money and entrepreneurship was never really on my mind. I played football and basketball growing up in high school. Being a student athlete, never really had time for a job. I caddied a little bit on the weekends, and I was a counselor in training at the Boys and Girls Club that I went to. That was about it. When I went to college my first year, I had a little work study, but as I said, still not very entrepreneurial at all. I would just try to make ends meet as a broke college student, as they say. Then at the end of my freshman year, that's when the pandemic took over the world. So March 2020, after spring break, we never ended up coming back. And so my sophomore year, that fall 2020, ended up reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it made me realize that there was another way of viewing the world that wasn't being taught in school, wasn't being taught in my environment, but more importantly, wasn't being taught back home. So I decided to, start doing what I do best, and YouTube University, everything that I could find on personal finance and investing and entrepreneurship. And that ended up leading to me getting a course on how to wholesale real estate. Long story short, that didn't work out. Ended up then pursuing my real estate license, spring 2021, signed up for my classes, stopped showing up to all my college classes, and never looked back. And then 2 weeks after I turned 20, now this is September 2021, I ended up getting my real estate license. Ended up not selling any houses, but along the way, I was asked to teach a social media class about 4 months in. This is now January 2022. And one of the co-hosts of this mastermind call that would get like 200 to 300 people every morning on Clubhouse was like one day they were talking about social media. I'm at the gym. They usually meet from 6:30 to 7. I'm like, okay, I can't share all this background noise. Let me just type up what I want to say and just post it in a Facebook group. And then from there, everyone started liking and commenting and sharing. And one of the co-hosts was like, hey, John, like, do you mind teaching a class on this? And I was like, I never taught a class before. And I almost fumbled the opportunity. But luckily, or fortunately, she reached back and was like, John, let us know when you want it scheduled. And pretty much gave me no choice. So I just decided to figure it out. My first class had a little over 440 realtors from across the U.S. and Canada sign up for it.
Holy cow.
And that kind of sparked the journey of like this teaching. It didn't turn into a business quite yet, but that's how I kind of got into like teaching, marketing, and eventually led to AI.
That's very interesting because I grew up not entrepreneurial at all as well. So I came from, lower income, like get a job. If you're smart and you work hard, you can work for somebody else and have security, right? Like that was the big thing. And so I was very similar in growing up, and it took me quite a while and quite a few years later than you to figure this math out. But to have your first class, 450 people sign up for that, like, good for you. That would be a little bit of pressure, though.
No, definitely. I still remember the day like it was yesterday. So I had a Google form because I didn't know how to work Eventbrite, or I didn't have any, I didn't even know what a landing page was at that time. So I had a Google form that had people put their name and emails. From there, you can connect Google Forms to a Google Sheet. And so I then went and copied and pasted everyone manually into my MailChimp. From there, I would send out the email invites, go back to my Google Sheets, highlight the people that I sent it to green, and then, as I said, I had a whole bunch of people sign up for it. So I was just constantly trying to go back and forth, trying to keep track of who got the invitation, who didn't. People were emailing me like, hey, John, I never got the link. And people, even right up to the call, were signing up. It was like, the call was at, I think, like 12. And it's not like 11:59, I'm getting emails talking about, hey, John, can you send me the link? And I'm just like, I'm about to teach in like 30 seconds. Like, what can I do? But I ended up working out. We had about 205 on the call live, I think was the highest. Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, a lot of pressure for a first time. So how did it then turn into a business? So you were giving just free value classes to people who had requested it?
Yeah. So the group, as I said, was already established, already had hundreds of people. So that first class kind of boosted me up, and it was a big marketing play. This is like one of the proudest things of my journey, because I knew that the week after was Keller Williams family reunion. So I'm licensed with Keller Williams. As I said, I still don't do anything real estate related. That's just where I hold my license. But they were having their first family reunion conference, which usually get anywhere from 10 to 15,000 people the week after. So I strategically planned it for the week before, because I knew the week of traveling would probably get in the way. And then from there, the week after, I ended up going with my hair in braids. And now, if you've seen my headshot, I had about 4 times more hair than I do now, right? And everyone in real estate knew me for my hair, right? So yeah. I went in with my hair in braids on purpose, because you can't never let them know your next move, right? I had to be a little secretive, right? That Sunday, that group that I taught for was having a networking dinner / forum type of thing. And I knew virtually everyone that was there on the call was going to also be there in person at the networking dinner, right? So that Sunday morning, I woke up extra early, washed out my hair, which took me almost an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? And I had a shirt that said, stop and stare, just don't touch the hair, right? And that's kind of what boosted me up. And then from there, I started teaching more social media classes. My second one had a little over 400 sign up. That was on intro to TikTok. And I'm talking about super, super basic. I'm talking about here's this button, and that's what this button does. Really going through the basics. And then around September, this is when I'd say I started becoming more of a quote unquote real entrepreneur. And I started getting a bunch of ClickFunnels ads. I started seeing Russell Brunson everywhere for whatever reason. And I didn't know, but this is when they were launching ClickFunnels 2.0. And so I ended up signing up for the Your First Funnel Challenge. And I ended up going through there. And I was going to offer content creation services. So I was keep teaching the classes for free. And I had imposter syndrome. It took me a while to realize. But I'm like, I'm teaching all these realtors. I never sold a house. Like, I have no business charging them for these classes. Like, this is just my way of, and I would always say like, no, this is my way of giving back. But in reality, I just didn't really feel worthy of charging, despite people like on my second class, one of my friends, she's a millionaire real estate agent out in Maryland. She was like, John, like, never do another one of these without charging ever again. And still, for whatever reason, like, she gave me the okay, and I still didn't feel okay charging. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep teaching these classes for free, right? But I'm then going to upsell to my content creation services. And I got my first client. He was a real estate investor. A good friend of mine hopped on my show, and I was just editing the clips. So being a podcaster, you're pretty good at talking to people, asking people good questions, right? So I know how to ask people, get answers out of them, right? So to make them look good, right? And so I was gonna just take those clips, edit them, put the fancy captions on, and then send them back. And that was gonna be like my content creation service. And after working with him, I'm just like, never again. Not because of him, but because like editing other people's content on top of editing your own and trying to run your own business is absolutely dreadful. Like, I hated doing it. I was laying in my bed just miserably adding the captions to every video and then uploading it to Google Drive. And I was just like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So after that, I scrapped up that $1 million idea. Fast forward a little bit, around December, I was at having a midlife crisis, I guess you could say.
A mid, like half life,
quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, like, I'm trying to get into real estate. That didn't work out. Clearly didn't sell any houses. My podcast numbers at that time were going down month after month, right? My $1 million marketing business that I was going to start up dropped after my first client, and working at a restaurant job. And in the wintertime, it starts getting slow. So I was like barely making ends meet. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, why, no matter how hard I try, I have a good head on my shoulders, I'm investing in myself, I'm going to conferences, I'm in these calls, and like, why is nothing working out for me? And I ended up finding this concept called Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept, stands for your reason for being. That could be a topic for a whole nother day. Long story short, I was like, all right, what's my reason for being? And it pointed back to the podcast. So I started like my little podcast tour. I probably hopped on a little over 100 podcasts between January and March of this year. And one of the guys that interviewed me had a mastermind, joined his mastermind, and in there he had a course on how to use ChatGPT. And then in the course, he screen records himself creating the course with ChatGPT. And I'm like, this guy has it really good. Like, I thought I was doing good because I was using it for my show notes and my show titles at the time. But I was like, nah, this is meta. Like, he's doing something so next level. And so 2 weeks after that, I ended up teaching my first class on ChatGPT, used ChatGPT and Tome.app to create the presentation. And I had about 300 realtors from there sign up. I then upsold to a workshop for the very first time. It was 20 spots, $197 a spot. Within 24 hours, it sold out. And I just made 4 months of what I work at the restaurants off of a webinar that I had ChatGPT create. And so then I was like, all right, I'm playing the game wrong, clearly, because there's no reason why I just made this much money off a class presentation that I didn't even create myself yet, right? And then March, I was reading Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson, ended up creating my perfect webinar, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to create a course going to be called Perfect Podcast Prospect, How to Build Your Online Presence with Podcast Guesting. I think it's still like one of the most high leverage activities that you can do because the host already has the audience. Their team is going to do the editing. They're going to post it everywhere, tag you in the clips, whatever. You just have to show up and talk about yourself. I'm like, people are going to love this. And I already built up a lot of rapport with the audience because I wasn't teaching to new people. It was just the same groups over and over again, right? And then from there, I ended up doing my perfect webinar. I pre-sold my course. It was $497. Ended up getting 5 people, which for me was very disappointing because I thought I had a really warm audience and I thought people were going to be like flying, from left and right to just buy my course because it's the first time I ever really, really offered something, right? And I put a lot of time into it. And then from there, that's how I kind of got into the course creation business. Then I ended up revamping it. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but that's how I kind of got into the course digital business owner space, I guess you could say.
Okay. Very cool. So what is the main course that you're selling now or promoting at this point?
Yeah. So I changed the name now to Content Creator Fast Track. So between the first launch and I launched again in June. Now the main difference between the two launches is what I learned from the first launch is no matter how great your idea is, if people aren't asking for it, don't make it. Like, don't bother wasting your time. And It's hard to kind of come to terms with. So instead of getting, butthurt about it, I put my entrepreneur hat on, right? And I was like, all right, so what can I do? So I started doing market research, started surveying realtors. I started going back through like the people who signed up for my courses and my workshops, and started seeing what they were struggling with. Started calling realtors on the phone, like, hey, what are your biggest concerns with, content creation and social media, whatever. And after talking to about a little over a couple hundred people through polls and surveys, sending out to my email list, Facebook groups, whatever, I ended up coming to the terms that realtors and business owners are struggling with 6 main things when it comes to content creation. The first is they don't understand like social media, like the algorithm, which hashtag best times to post, why a reel versus a carousel, stuff like that, right? The second is they don't understand technology. This could be the editing software, the microphones, the cameras, all the equipment, all that stuff. The third is they have a fear of some sort for getting in front of a camera. Now, maybe a speech impediment, maybe an accent, it may be that they don't look the way they do when they were back in high school. It could be a ton of different things, right? The fourth is they don't mind getting on camera, but it's like, what on earth do I talk about? For whatever reason, they just don't know what to say, right? The fifth is that they don't have the time juggling all the things that they juggle with being
They got to run a business.
Exactly. They don't have the time. And then the sixth one is they understand the importance, whatever. They like don't mind doing it, but they just don't want to be the one that does it. They want leverage, right? And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this information and only talk about this in the course. The course was originally about 66 lessons, and I took it down to like 25, reorganize it, change the name, double the price, read product launch formula, right? And then 2 weeks before my launch in June, I went to Kajabi Hero Live conference. And so I was just talking to, and there's a whole bunch of Kajabi users and course creators. So I'm just talking to everybody like, hey, I'm launching in 2 weeks. What you got for me? You give me this, the secret, give me some game. And I ended up doing pretty well. I had about 350 people register from it. It was a 4-day workshop. Day 1, 2, and 3, taught for an hour, did Q&A for an hour. Day 4, I pitched just open cart, and I had a 7-day enrollment for open cart week. And then from there, I ended up getting 20 people on the call to register day 1. Drove over to my restaurant job later that afternoon, put in my 2 weeks. It was honestly like really bittersweet. Like, although I was waiting for the moment for a while, driving over, I'm just like, a part of me for whatever reason was just like, John, like you're on your own after this, you know that, right? And it was I was trying to find the words that's like, what do I say? Because I was working there almost 3 years, and during the pandemic, every day felt like the same day because there was nothing to do besides work. It was like, that was a big part of me for the last 3 years of my life and like my early adulthood, right? And so it's like leaving, although it was great, it was super bittersweet at the same time. And then I ended up getting another 13 people enrolled from the deadline email sequence. That launch did a lot better. I ended up getting, I think, like 20,000 net cash collected that first week. And then from the payment plans, I got another 11-ish, 12-ish from there. And then the main thing I learned from launch number 2 is it doesn't matter if you give people the information you want. If it's not put in a game, in a roadmap that's simple and easy enough for them to follow, they're not going to go through with it. So now I've been going through, again, my course curriculum and ever, and now I created like the script method, which is like everyone like in real estate specifically, but like business owners, we all talk about like scripts. What scripts are we using? So I made like a script acronym, but for content creation, right? And so now I'm just reverse engineering my process, and I'm more of like a visionary creative type. So like being organized isn't my natural way of like organizing the world and organizing my thoughts. And so, but trying to be as organized as possible to reverse engineer exactly what I'm doing. So like McDonald's, like doesn't matter whether you're 16 or 65, a McChicken is a McChicken because the systems and processes are dialed in. So how can I kind of make my course like that, like clockwork, where it's like you put someone in and conveyor belt, someone comes out and boom, and just keep on people cycling. So I'm planning to launch again in January, and I know the numbers that I really need to work on. The main 2 are my opt-in rates. For whatever reason, I had about 1,200 people see my page and only 350 registered. So it's like, all right, that's horrible. How do I turn that dial up? And then the second dial I'm trying to turn for this upcoming launch is my show up rates. So I had about 350 people register, but only 100 people showed up each day, right? So how do I get that dial switched up so I can make almost 2 to 3x what I made last launch without having to get more eyeballs on what I have going on. So that's kind of where I'm at now with the course.
So what is your reminder sequence for that? Like, or how do you get people? Because we've done some cool stuff in this space. So like, how are you getting people on every day after they've registered?
So I usually sent out an email, one reminder about 15 minutes before. And then, so after day one, I send out an email with the replay. And then also in that email, it's like, hey, make sure to be there for day 2 as well. And before I got off the call, I would always try to tease the next problem. So Jeff Walker, he talks about like the PS path, like the problem solution path. So you state the problem, you actually solve it, and then you hint at the next problem for day 2. That's what I was kind of doing on the call. And then off the call, an email gets sent out immediately after with the replay and saying, hey, make sure to be there for day 2. So hinting at the next problem. And then on day 2, which was on the Wednesday, right, I sent out an email 15 minutes before. Now I got feedback because people are like, most people aren't checking their email that frequently to see. So like probably send one earlier. And then, but same thing, day 2, after that replay email got sent out, make sure to be there for day 3. And then day 3, 15 minutes before, send another email. And then that was pretty much it. I didn't have a text reminder or anything like that. And I didn't have any other like fancy special emails to like incentivize. It was pretty super straightforward and simple.
Yeah. In today's space, I mean, everyone use email because email is just, it's like, you just got to use email, right? That's like the baseline. But to really, anything that's important that you want to have a high open rate, a high, like they actually see it, text messaging.
Yeah. I didn't even think about it last time around. Like it wasn't even a thought that came to mind, which is like, I'm like familiar with some like text messages just from like my time in real estate. Like one of the ones that they used often was Twilio. But like for whatever reason, when I did my launch back in June, it didn't come across to me at all. There were so many like different moving pieces that I was trying to work out that that was like something that just slipped my mind entirely.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But if you could add text messaging, and even so on your initial opt-in page, make sure that you've got a phone number listed. Have something where they have to reply initially, like when they first opt in, they get a text message that they need to verify or something to get access to whatever. And so you let them know on that capture page so they don't give you a junky phone number, right? And then every day you give like a 10-minute warning, 15-minute warning or whatever, depending on how fast your system can send out text messages and how many people they have to send them to. But just that one little tweak can have a massive impact in your show up rate.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing now, because that's the big thing that, like, if I just got, so from what I heard, like about a 70% show up rate is pretty decent, right? And it's just like, that's like something that's like obtainable and pretty realistic. I'm like, all right, so at a 70% show up rate with my exact numbers from the last launch, I would have about like 250, 275 people on there. And at about a 10% conversion rate, which is what I had, that would have right there easily been like another 20,000 just by like not adding more people, but just turning the dial on the conversion rate. So like I said, I'm not bad with numbers. It's just like, as I said, it's not my natural way of like processing the world. So it's like trying to be more of a grown-up entrepreneur, right? And
Yeah.
and figuring this stuff out so that I can improve for the next launch.
It's crazy when you realize it, how important all of those conversion rates are. Even, I mean, we've seen it. If you can drive the same amount of traffic, you can have the same, core things that are happening, and you can make just these little tiny tweaks, they can have a massive change in the amount of revenue, a massive impact in that revenue generated. So yeah, I absolutely collect phone numbers, do text message reminders. That'll be big. Now, I'm curious, what are you doing to sell in between launches? Because I love live launches. However, they're a ton of work and I would only do them once per product. And then I automate and all of that stuff. So what are you doing to sell in between?
Yeah, so like your typical creative visionary type person, I kind of seen the shiny squirrel and I started chasing it a little bit. So after my last launch in June, and I just like, all right, now I need a high ticket offer, right? Now I need to go for the big whales, right? So I was gonna offer this time around content creation service again, but now I'm a smarter entrepreneur, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to subcontract this out so I can have someone do the fulfillment for me. So I could just keep on being the pretty face behind the camera and the microphone, right? And I was one lady back when I was in real estate. She was on one of the top teams, and she was like an admin, but like she was more than an admin. Although her role just said like assistant, she was like the backbone. She was doing the social media. She was doing the transaction coordinating. She was doing the email newsletter. She was doing everything. And that team ended up dissolving. So she went independent to start doing social media services. And so I'm like, okay, she's just starting, and she was like severely underpricing herself. Like my self-study course was almost as much as her highest ticket offer. And it was like hers is completely done for you and mine is completely DIY, right? So she was severely under. So I'm like, okay, listen, here's what I got going on. Here's my mission with Stop and Stare. Here's what I'm doing with the content creation game. I'm teaching, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm getting into public speaking this year. And so it's like, are you kind of on board with this mission? And so she was. And the guy on the mastermind call, I was talking to the guy who runs it, and he was giving me ideas. And he was like, John, this would probably be good for you if it does end up working. Now, here's how I would go about it. And next thing you know, she was on board. I talked to her again. I was like, all right, I'll manage because she's more of an entrepreneur than anything. Like, although she started her own business, she has like the entrepreneurial, like, the visionary, like the ideas and stuff like that. But she also really, really does value the security and the safety. So she is like an amazing, amazing entrepreneur. I just don't think she has the risk tolerance to, just be the entrepreneur, which is the only thing that's missing on it, because she has everything else, like across the board. She's amazing. And so she was going to do like the fulfillment, and the process for that was going to be like, I'm going to, get these clients on a $5,000 a month recurring retainer, right? And then from there, hop on an onboarding call with them, and her name's Maria, right? Her and Maria. And then from there, get their strategy, and like by 2 weeks in, we're going to hop on a call with them. We're going to come with scripts created for them. They're just kind of hop on and record, and we'll kind of coach them through recording. Then from there, I have a video editor from the Philippines. He was going to edit all the videos. Once the videos are all edited, Maria will then worry about like scheduling, posting, and managing the social media. And that was going to be my high ticket offer. And I spent so much time, energy, and bandwidth just trying to figure out how that would look like. And I ended up not getting any clients for that. And that was about like a month, like 2 months of my time right there. And then she ended up getting a corporate job, which in the New York City, so I can't compete with it. This scrappy entrepreneur just getting started. You have a 401k and benefits and all this other stuff. It's like, well, not too much I could do in that department. So I don't blame her at all for taking the opportunity. And then by the time I was like, all right, well, now let me look back at my course, and like all the momentum died. So now working on this next launch so I can rebuild up the momentum. And my goal now is like, I don't plan on focusing on any other strategies until I can get this course evergreen to $20K a month. From there, once it's evergreen $20K a month, that's more money than I need to pay off all my stuff, especially still being young. I don't have too many expenses, right? There's way more money than I need to pay off all my things. And then from there, then I could really let loose, because now I don't have to worry. I could swing for the fences now. And so that's my goal, right? Is doing this launch to get that momentum back up again, right? This time I'm going about it a little bit differently. I'm funnel hacking a little bit now. Russell Brunson bought out Dan Kennedy's magnetic marketing. And so they have a magnetic marketing challenge. And so my hypothesis, right, is I'm going to just funnel hack, their landing page, their thank you page, their a VIP upsell, but kind of do it similar. So they're doing a 5-day challenge. I'm still doing like a launch like I did last time. I'm gonna call it a challenge. And but their landing pages and their the way they're structured, I'm going to pretty much mimic that. And of course write my own copy and whatever. And then and do it like that. Because if they're running ads to this place, and that magnetic marketing challenge, like I seen it last year, it's the same exact landing page. And Russell Brunson, like he's a conversions nerd. So if that landing page isn't working, there's no reason why they would have the same exact landing page. So it has to be working, right? And so I'm gonna let me just mimic this and not reinvent the wheel, and kind of do the same strategy as I did last time, just put a little prettier wrap around on the outside so I can get more people interested into it. And so their challenges are this week upcoming. So I'm going to go through them and see how they teach and get some ideas. And then ideally by this December, right, I'm going to have my landing page ready for people to start registering and upselling. And I've been speaking locally, as I said, I've been getting more into public speaking. So I got some more organizations that I spoke at that I did really well with that I'm going to start reaching out. And it's like, get this to your people. It's going to be a free workshop. Of course, I'm going to have a VIP upsell. And so my numbers that I'm working on right now with is I need, so I'm going to up my course again to now 1,500, right? And so at that price, I need 67 people enrolled to have a 100K launch, right? And so reverse it, which is still a very big number. But as I said, if I turn the dials right, at 67 people at 10% conversion rate, I need 670 people on the call, right? At about a 70% show up rate, I need about 950 registered, and about a 70% opt-in rate, I need about 1,350 that actually land on the page. My last launch had about 1,200 people land on the page. So that's why I think it's very realistic when I put it that way. To get it, as I said, still a big stretch, still way more money than I'd ever seen or anyone that I know personally, like that's not from entrepreneurship has ever seen. So as it's still very daunting, but when I play to like reverse engineer the numbers, it makes it sound like feasible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the exact way to do it. And funnel hacking and learning what's working for other people, that's important because you're never just copying, right? We're not like stealing people's stuff, but it's what's working, and then it sparks your creativity and how can you apply the same principles of what they're doing into what you're doing and everything else. So that's a very good idea. What is your evergreen strategy? What are you looking at to do to automate and continue to sell this versus working your tail off on a launch? Yeah.
So after this launch, as I said, whether the goal is to hit 100, and I think we can do it, but whether we do or not, we're still going to get way more than we did last time, which is still way more money than I need to survive. So that's going to give me a big cushion to take a step back again and say, all right, where are we going from here? And what I may end up doing is just like as I said, just perfect, like the perfect webinar, creating my like little perfect webinar, and then probably teaching it live, which is going to be exactly what I teach in the challenge, just condensed down into like a 90-minute presentation, and then teach it live a few times and start running ads to it to see if I can now sell it to a cold audience, because I said most of my audience has been super warm and hot yet. And so like once I battle test it with a cold audience and I'm still getting, as I said, at least like a 8 to 10% conversion rate, which is pretty solid. Then from there, go on. There's a couple people that I was going to create a webinar funnel a while ago, and I ended up not doing it for my launch, which probably why my opt-in rates were so low. But anyways, it still ended up being pretty good. This time around, go back to those people to have them create me an actual funnel for it, and then just evergreen it. And then from there, just like on repeat, just have paid traffic go into that every time. And then from there, so let me ask you this. I want to hear your thoughts. All right, I've heard people that go on I don't let anybody enroll in the course without applying. And then there's people who are just like, you can just buy whenever. And like there's different schools of thought. It's like, if you let people in, then you only let people who are qualified. And because you're only letting people qualified in, the results and testimonials are going to be a lot better. But then it's also like other people who are just like, it's a DIY course. Like, let's just let people enroll whatever they want and leave it up to them. So there's different schools of thoughts. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah. So generally speaking, if there's ever any level of access, we always want to talk to them. So if we're going to be taking them on as a coaching client, I want to see if I want them as a coaching client. Like I want to talk to them and make sure that we vibe and that this is going to be a good relationship that can really produce great results. If it's a course, just sell that bad boy. You're still going to have the same amount of testimonial. Like the good people are still going to create testimonials. The bad people will hopefully learn through this process and maybe it'll push them to be better. But it's just a course. So
yeah,
I would absolutely let them enroll. But a big question though, moving into cold traffic with this, what kind of testimonials do you have? Like what do your testimonials look like from the people that you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, so the people who actually went through the course and actually put it into play, like one of my friends or students, he's an agent over in Syracuse. Like one evening, he went like created 33 weeks of content. It just sitting down for 2 hours one evening, and scheduled that out. And we have another lady that went through. She's from Texas. She uses Metricool, the scheduler that I talk about in the course, and so like she's usually scheduled out for a month in advance now. So her content process is a lot more streamlined. This other guy, he kind of took some of the stuff that I talked about, like with ChatGPT, and like just went above and beyond just content creation. He had ChatGPT using it to actually help him create his business plan and his mission statements. Although it was like wasn't content creation, he took it and spun it for what he needed it for. And now he has like ChatGPT helping him create like 12-week marketing campaigns and email campaigns and all this different stuff. Which is not actually what I talk about in the course, but he took it and just got creative with it. And then the other, just like a few of the main ones off the top of my head.
Yeah. Do you have monetary testimonials?
That's the only one I don't have,
So that's going to be the biggest part, especially at that high of it. So 1,500 is often, it's harder to sell without a sales call. It's easier to sell in a sales call. It's getting to that kind of like, it's kind of in that in-between zone. Having monetary testimonials. So if you can show, if you've got a client that says, hey, I just made $20,000 commission on this house that I generated the lead, or I found the buyer, or like whatever from this TikTok, or like that I did through the course or whatever. So if they can show monetary, that's going to make your job much easier when it comes to selling this to a cold audience and to selling it automated without a sales call. So I would work with your clients that you have and see, and even just, they probably don't even know how to track, or like, are they even asking the question of where people found them or anything like that? And so I would touch base with your current clients and kind of help them start to try to figure that out, because you might already have those results and they just haven't like actually sat down to figure it out yet. So I would definitely work to collect monetary testimonials. Those other ones are good, right? But the monetary are great.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's going to be really helpful with cold traffic. On top of that, I would challenge you, if you're really wanting to crush this and create some more stability long-term, what kind of ongoing membership could you have as a back-end offer for this?
So right now, I have like a little Facebook group, and for the people in the course, and in there, it's not honestly as active as I would have expected it to be. But it was for people like to ask questions a little bit, and also post site. When I did the first launch and the second launch, the first like 6 weeks, well, the first launch I was teaching it live, and that ended up becoming a course. And then for the second launch, I was going through the material live. So like all those calls are in the Facebook group and all that stuff. And then for this upcoming launch, I was gonna offer like an VIP like version of the course, where it's like anyone that wanted to hop on a group coaching calls, they could pay like a higher version of the course and do something like that. And like all those calls and stuff like that are in the Facebook group and everything like that. But I don't have a recurring monthly membership, which I know I should have some sort of, but I just, there's like, there's only so much my brain can handle at one time. But what do you suggest?
Yeah, so something simple. Don't make it too complicated for yourself, but $50 a month, $100 a month, something where they're able to maybe get feedback on their content, or maybe you do a little bonus trading in there once a month, or there's something that your people, what they struggle with and what they look for. So something simple. Don't make it, because it's only going to be $50, $100 a month. So you're not going to pour a ton of effort into this, but it's going to be valuable enough that it makes sense for them. On top of that, the first month should be included in the purchase price. So as a bonus, so it adds value to your main offer. As a bonus, you're going to get your first month of my ongoing content creators mastermind club, blah, 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 whatever that is, right? But it's set up so that it's an ongoing membership. So month 2, unless they cancel it, they're paying. Launches are great. I love Evergreen. All this kind of stuff is awesome. But when you can create monthly residuals, just especially, you're young now. Eventually, maybe you might have a family or other stuff. And that stability is really helpful. right? And even when you're looking at buying a house and doing all this kind of stuff, it's really helpful. So I would definitely suggest that. And then when you're looking to make this evergreen, I would also look at, we love webinars. I mean, we've made a lot of money in webinars, selling courses, but I also like the idea, and we're actually working on some right now ourselves, for automated challenges, automated text message challenges. Say this launch really converts beautifully.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's tweak it a little bit, make it a 3-day or whatever it is challenge that's fully automated. They opt in, it starts delivering via text message.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that would be something to play with, or just kind of file that away for when you're ready to put together your evergreen version. But if this works, what you're doing, don't reinvent the wheel, to kind of stick with that framework, but you could set it up as an automated challenge via text message. And we've driven a lot of cold traffic through those and converted really well.
Yeah, so that's another thing too. So challenges, I feel like I've been getting more and more popular as of recently. I've been seeing them all over the place now. Like as the magnetic marketing challenge, your first funnel challenge. There's another challenge. There's a challenge on creating challenges that I seen a couple months back. Yeah. Yep. So I'm starting to see them everywhere now. So it's like, I mean, I guess it has to be working if everyone's using it. I listened to a podcast literally the other day on the drive over to Jersey. This guy, Ryan Pineda, he's like a real estate investor guy, turned like entrepreneur. And he was talking about like his team just created like a challenge that they're running, and that converted really, really well for them. And that was their first time doing it. So I might honestly just have to leave the webinar. I just got so used to teaching webinars. It's like how I was kind of started presenting. But like honestly, like some type of automated challenge I think would probably be a lot easier, a lot better, honestly.
Yeah, I'm currently working on one and have another one queued up that I'll be finishing in the next 2 weeks here. And they just work. They're just really, really effective. And especially in the TikTok world, right? Where everyone's attention span is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. When you can give small, like bite-sized things over a several series of days, it can really work very well with just how people think and process information in today's day and age.
Let me ask you a quick question then. So for like text, like mass texting, which platform are you currently using?
We like ConvertPoint. And so that's ConvertPoint, but that's an all-in-one system. Okay. So that's our membership site, that's our email, that's our text message, that's all of our automations, funnels, websites, everything's in one. So it's like a Kajabi type of thing, but it's more robust. And so we've got all kinds of really cool automations that we do through there, but we absolutely use text messaging. And even the simple thing as if we're running a text message or running a lead generator, a lead gen ad, we've added in like validating your phone number to get the course login sent to you or to get whatever. And so we've got setters and closers, which we're in the higher ticket space. And so, well, now we know that even though we might be paying a little bit more for that lead, we have a valid phone number.
Yeah.
Right? It was definitely worth it. So there's some really cool stuff that you can do. But yeah, I love ConvertPoint and some of these just all-inclusive programs that include a lot of text message options. Todd, my husband, a business partner, he's super techie, and he sets up all kinds of cool automations. I'm like, honey, can you do this? He's like, I don't know. And then he comes back a few hours later, done. I'm like, all right, cool.
No, that's amazing. And I was just thinking about like while you were saying like, I don't know, when I do this next launch on like the landing page, have it like, hey, here are the next steps before you click off whatever, and have one of them be like, make sure to text challenge to this number or whatever, so you can sign up for the text reminders or something like that, and or something, so I can get them to give me their phone numbers, and so I can start getting them to actually show up on the call.
Yeah, that'd be good. If you don't have a fully integrated system like that, you could set it up like that, where they're texting, challenge to so that you get the daily reminders and you don't miss anything. And even if you have a bonus, you can give them too. You can incentivize and say, I'm going to give my such and such mini course or quick start guide or whatever when so you can even make it juicier so that they actually want to do it. So there's all kinds of cool things you could do. But yeah, leveraging, funnel hacking like you're doing to optimize your landing pages, all of that. I would circle back with your current clients or people that you've worked with to see if you can figure out any specific monetary gains that came from their content. I would set up a text message process for this next launch so that you're really maximizing the show up rates. And I would think through an ongoing residual membership that you can have as a bonus for everybody who purchases, so that month 2 can be very nice as well, and ongoing versus large amount of cash, feast or famine kind of scenario. We love the feast, but the famine's not so much fun.
Yeah, at all whatsoever.
So even if you had a membership set up that it just like that by itself covered rent and groceries and like your core stuff, and then you'd have the freedom to really try stuff and experiment and then throw a bunch of money into ads and do all this other stuff and join some of those really high ticket masterminds and different things to help you keep growing, because I got this lump sum from the launch, but I'm good. Like I have this residual month to month that I'm living off of. And so I can, have a little bit more risk tolerance to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Russell Brunson talks about so it's it's funny because I don't use the software, but I all his teaching, the lessons I try to apply to what I got going on. And he talks about if you don't have continuity, you don't have a business. And so it's I always have that lingering in the back of my head. Like I do not have continuity at all whatsoever yet. So it's I really don't have a business no matter how well these launches do. So it's all right, I got to figure out a way to add that on without having to be too much homework for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I challenge you to figure that out. I think it's going to be your next thing. But I'm super excited for your launch. I want to learn everything as to see how it goes and everything that you implemented. So good luck on all of that. How can people connect with you if they love what you're doing? They're curious about checking you out. Where should they find you?
First, again, thank you again for having me on. Thanks again for all your amazing ideas. I can't wait to implement this in the next about month and a half before the next launch. So I'm super excited, and I'll definitely let you know. And I always like to say, AI won't replace you. Someone using AI will. So if you're looking to start using ChatGPT to leverage and start growing your business, if you go to stopandstare.media/ChatGPT, again, that's stopandstare.media/ChatGPT, you'll get my free ChatGPT mini course that helps you start learning how to prompt ChatGPT so you can get the best results out of it. And anyone that wants to follow me on Instagram, it's at John Mendez Official.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. This was awesome. And I know people are taking some really good takeaways from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you again.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.